All right, everyone. Good morning. Hey, Alex.
Hey, Howard. What's up?
Not a whole lot. Yeah, for our tens of viewers at home, we are awaiting the extradition of at least two other members, at which time we'll have a quorum. Meantime, let's prepare to make ready to stand by. Can we send out the St. Bernards and... Yes!
Here, I'll balance this out a little bit.
All right. All right, I've already introduced Alex Wan, Ms. Bakhtiari, and Mr. Winston are here. So we do have a quorum. This is the August 9th City Utilities meeting. I'm Howard Shook. I'm chair of the committee. And I will make a motion to approve. I'll give you guys a second to get hooked up. We have a motion to approve the agenda along with a second from Ms. Bakhtiari. So let's open that vote, please. Vote is open.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
All right, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the previous meeting. Second by Ms. Bakhtiari. Let's open that vote. I'm sure you've all carefully poured over the minutes.
The vote is open.
Vote.
Councilmember Winston?
It's stuck on the same. I'm looking at the same screen as the chair.
Is that a yes?
Yes.
Thank you. The voting is closed.
All right, that brings us to public comment. And do I have a electronic list here? All right. Brother Muhammad, your first step.
I am that I am. An ancestor, and I call on antiquity, the ancient ancestors, to teach spirituality unto my soul every day. And I'm not a believer in the Roman Catholic Church religion anymore. From Genesis to Revelation, not one person was born from the womb's canal of a woman. Maud Mitrot Hotel, Iceland. Now I come here to talk about the problem that I find in our community with homelessness. As you see on the street, and I see we're going to have some workers of the public will be talking to you about the serious work they do for the benefit of Atlanta citizenry. Because Mr. Reed had asked those same workers to go and take all the belongings of the people living under the streets, put it in the trash can. If they was on this side of I-20, take it down and put them somewhere else. Well, why do I hold the mock ox? She represents balance. It's the ancient energy of the yin and the yang, which represent the man. I represent the interest of the Father, which offers represent the spirit and the soul, as well as the woman represent Mother Universe, the daughter Earth. We have to have that compatibility of the duality. And if you don't have that compatibility of the duality, you can't get the whole what the universe requires. Whole contribution of good. You can't have part give somebody what they want, the farmers and the police, give them a raise whenever they have a need to have the word. But what about these brothers here? And why is I'm speaking about the brother? Because the man out. The woman say, don't worry. It's just like, Mama, when you was a child and you fell on the floor or something, you got your knee skin. You went to Mama, what did she do? Come there, baby, I kiss her. And you say, oh, it feel better. So I'm calling on you, mothers of the day. I'm calling on you, fathers of the day. Let's come together and represent our 180 degrees. Because without both of us working in unity, you can't have 360 represent the whole 360 degrees. Now, what are we going to do here? I'm tired of seeing that people that have built Atlanta, built the country, living on the street. The ancient ancestors' children live on the street. You got billionaires in Atlanta. Call on some of them like we had Mr. Home Depot man called on this city to take my taxpayer money and build that Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Now, it's time for you members of council to speak up. And those that look like me, why don't you feel in the same spirit? And Mr. Shook and all, I appreciate y'all when y'all speak good for the benefit of the whole. And I thank you. And I greet you as I did not greet you. Mr. Hotep, Assalamu alaikum. Eshe, eshe, eshe.
Thank you, Brother Muhammad. Mr. Biggs, you're next, followed by Mr. Collins. Johns Biggs, are you here? All right, if he comes back, he can come up and speak. In the meantime, Carlos Collins, you're next. All right, I'm going to keep going through names, and when they... Okay, how many people are donating time?
Pretty much all of them.
Hey, let me count. 1, 2. Yeah, well, it's not everyone, but just about. So go ahead and introduce yourself. And so that, how much time do you think you're going to need?
I was told it's a max.
And the max is 10 minutes. So you've got more people who have awarded time, but the maximum time you can have, regardless of how many people have donated time, is 10 minutes.
Can I see that ordinance with all due respect? Because I've spoke more than 10 minutes. I've seen other people
We're not allowed to speak
more than
long,
10 minutes.
We're not allowed to speak longer than 10 minutes on
But I've seen committee and council give people more than 10 minutes.
No. So go ahead, let's ring up your 10 minutes and let's get you going.
So I'm here today on behalf of Watershed. If you guys could see this the amount of people that have died or caught COVID from watershed and waste management. Watershed Department was given almost $200 million during the COVID. Watershed employees was given that pay only 2 weeks. It stopped after 2 weeks. They have not received any more pay after that from the COVID funds. And we're asking this committee today, and we're prepared to come back for Finance Committee to show where that money have gone. Because the money have not been given to the employees only 2 weeks, and that's a lot of money that they have not received. And they were told that they would be given 500 comp hours. That money wasn't given for comp hours. That money was supposed to be for their pay. Cost of living and everything is going up. Comp hours does not compensate for cost of living and pay. And on the other hand, we have is raises. The Watershed Department have not had a raise in almost 20 years. We got guys that's been here for 20 years. Some people have come in the door, been hired, making more money than the people that have been there over 15 to 20 years, and that's not fair. And so we're asking you guys here today to not only understand that we all need water and we all need sewer. Now, when you give the police their money and fire, and you turn around and tell Watershed you're going to get them 1% and 2%, that's not fair and it doesn't make sense, because if you have a fire, Mr. Shook, at your home, that fire cannot be put out unless you have water, correct? So we have to understand that, and we have to respect that. The police department, they cannot stand in there without the water. Now, though we need police, very strong public safety issue, and we need fire, but we also need these men and women in the watershed department, because without water and sewer, I don't think none of us can live. Mr. Warren, you're a very clean guy. Did you think you would be happy if you didn't have no water to shower and bathe in? Absolutely not. None of us would. So we have to really understand that this is the most important department in the city, neck and neck with the police. Now, we have the airport with an outstanding $1 million water bill. So how aggressive are we to make sure that they pay that? And then maybe we can have some money to pay the men and women that have been here that serve us in the watershed department. Now, understand this. We have this new disease out called monkeypox, right? We understand that monkeypox and COVID comes through what? Water and sewer. So if you have someone in the city that is sick, that person have to use the bathroom, correct, at home. They have to shower and bathe. So that comes out in the water. These men and women put their lives on the line. Many have died who put their lives on the line from diseases that's come in the water. I mean, really look at this, man, and just see how many men and women have died and caught COVID in the watershed in this in sewer department. Just understand this. Not one thank you from the city, not one visit to the family, not one I'm sorry you put your life on the line, because the last 2-3 years, these men and women have put their life on the line dealing with COVID and now monkeypox that is in the sewer. It's in the sewer. That's common sense. It's when you're sick, even if you don't have monkeypox or COVID, when you're sick at home with any cold disease, it comes out in the water because you have to use the restroom. You have to shower and bathe. And they deal with this every day with unfair compensation. We're not going to even get to the part where they're not even using contractors anymore. That money is now sitting in watershed. So that money can also be used to let them go out there and do it. You guys may not be aware of this, but there's money that's been allocated for contractors, but the city workers is doing the work because the contractors have not done the work. But you guys have signed off on it to pay them to do the work, but they're not doing the work. These men and women are doing the work, but they're not getting paid for it like the contractors are. So it's my understanding that the contractors have stopped getting paid in the future, but we're asking to let these men and women do the work. This is what we train them for. You got these guys training the contractors workers to do the work that y'all done approved the budget for them to get paid. But these men and women training them to do the work. That does not make sense. It does not make sense for these guys to be working all these years and not receive fair compensation. We gave fire and police their money, so we're asking that the watershed get their fair compensation, because none of this work without watershed. You guys couldn't be able to come to work and do what you do without water and sewer. Like, we can't so imagine these men and women not willing to come to work, and we don't have water and we don't have sewer pickup. And what many of you call the greatest black city in the world, we can't do that. We cannot claim to be a black Mecca, but we're not taking care of our brown and black employees in the city of Atlanta, who at this point putting their lives on the line dealing with monkeypox and COVID. As you see, many have died and lost their lives over there. And the city have not given them one thank you, not one plaque or memorial. It should have been full council with everybody on that list getting a plaque or memorial. We do it for all these other people in the city of Atlanta. Some of them makes no sense. But the men and women who have died and put their lives on the line don't deserve a plaque from the city of Atlanta? Like, we cannot continue to do that. These people should not continue to come down here and do that. And we have members of the union that's supposed to represent these people. But I understand, because I used to work for the city of Atlanta, that the members of the union have daughters and sons that work for Watershed. So they're not going to rock the boat. They're not going to represent these people fair, because they don't want their sons and daughters to be fired. And some of the member leaders are in supervisor position, which is kind of a conflict of interest when you're trying to represent people who's saying that they're not being paid fairly. And your sons and daughter already escalated them coming in the door because you're a union member and you know some people. Nah, we can't deal with that no more in Atlanta. That no longer. And Mr. Winston and Ms. Bakari, Mr. Warren, you're back. Some of you guys are back because they were tired of the people who seat you took not doing their job correctly. And that's why you're here. That's why we got a lot of new councilmen here. And Ms. Boone, you're a fighter. You come from up under C.T. Martin, who was the people's champ. So I know that you understand this because you're born and raised in Atlanta. So I know you have a heart for these people. And we have to just understand that without water and sewer, there's no city that can thrive without water and sewer. And I want to give my last 3 minutes to my brother Muhammad.
As Shay, make it very clear. Do y'all remember 1865 when we had the Emancipation Proclamation? And it was said that you all, in many cities in Texas, and even cities in my state of Georgia, we're not going to let you all have this freedom. You all, they look more like the brothers you see on the wall back there. Because we need you to go in the fields and pick this vegetation. Whole year passed. That's how you got Juneteenth. But now this is 2022. So I'm asking you, why is it that we can have people that do the work, as we know, especially during the COVID? These people, my brothers and sisters, was on the street working. Trash was still being picked up on the street. God, about a trash can, Miss Boone, you know, you worked on one of my neighbors that had towels packed in it, and one of those bins that shouldn't have had it in. And we got that straightened out. Now, I applaud the brother for recognizing the spirit of your father, energy, because he directs you with the will to want to do the right thing. So the rest of you all, you should just be saying, let's have a private meeting, or what you call these little special meeting, and get the department head, watershed in, and allow them to come and talk with some of the representatives, Mr. Robinson spoke, and let's get a resolution to it. Because I don't realize you have $200 million that you had gout, and yet you won't find ways to help. But let's be clear, members of Department of Watershed. You had Miss Keisha Lansbottom. We had a woman there named Keisha, who was a department head. I understand some controversy came about. We got rid of her. Mr. Reed was here. We had somebody in the Department of Watershed. Before she got here, we got rid of her. It appears to me that the people that we put in the position of influence to represent the department head, if they're not doing what the mayor wants, they're not doing what in the interest what they should be doing for the workers, they fire them, and then we got to start all over begging you all again to do the right thing. Now, it shouldn't be nobody else to come back after Brother Muhammad to say, it's wrong not to support these workers. If you're going to get them firemen and get a police officer, which they can deserve it too, but as the brother say, you got to drink water over there in the apartment. You got to drink water and use water in your home. You should have respect for the people that take the time to work. Brother been on the job 10, 15, 20 years, and then they don't get the support, and they want to get up in the morning and go do the work. And you know it, Miss Boone. You know it, Mr. Winston, and Mr. Shook, you know. This is Georgia. Do you all know Stacey Abrams? What did Stacey Abrams say about the state of Georgia? This is the western state for dark people. What them people look like? Dark. Now tell me what you gonna do about it. Now I don't want to come back up here and listen to this no more. It's enough, Brother Lewis. You say that some council members say you have energy, but I don't need you over here on my side.
Your time's expired,
so,
Brother Muhammad.
Yes, sir. I was addressing your representative that was District Trail, and I want him to know he can speak up. Mr. Shook, I respect you, sir.
Thank you.
I will sit down.
All right, thank you.
Matriarch Hotel.
All right, we've been joined by Ms. Boone and Mr. Lewis, and I do have some questions and information requests for staff here, and we're making a copy of your list, so we need to get you back to the original, and then, but I want to wait until we finish up with our public speakers who have signed up.
Mr. Shook, I want to know if I could exercise my Atlanta constitutional right and ask Mr. Lewis for more time. That's 2 more minutes.
Well, no, we had that discussion a couple of months ago, and we're advised by the law department that that's impermissible.
The law department have advised you guys that. I wish y'all started advising them not to pass those ordinances that y'all be signed off on without.
Sir, we went over all this very publicly several months ago, so that's would be out of order.
And it's passed. I mean, have they passed it?
It's part of the code.
Part of the code, but that's not what the president said.
I'll be happy to give you more information about it, but right now we're going to continue with the other people who have signed up to speak. And so next is Mr. Shakir.
My name is Ron Shakir. Just want to say thank you for this opportunity to be able to engage this council. Once again, it feels like 400 or 500 meetings I've been to. And I want to thank Mr. Lewis for his voice, for his young, strong voice in which he has spoken from. And I want to thank Brother Robinson and Brother Muhammad for the comments they made today, because it's a very needed statement. And I've been given some time by that young lady right there, Nida, and that young man right there who done worked with Jose Williams and any civil rights movement that have happened in this Atlanta. He was the sound man. He was the field operator. Right now he's having some medical issues, but he's still strong. He's still showing up. I just want to say that we got to be real careful in these times that we in. Our streets. I happen to stay a couple blocks from a street, Boulevard Granada. Boulevard Granada have a big sign that I saw when I came home yesterday that they're putting a new, they're creating some new designs, some new directions on that street. Well, I heard about it 2 months ago. Last month, I went door to door in every house that was intact. 95% of them said they were not interested in that layout. They did not want it. It involved putting little white pegs down the street for a block. Those white pegs would stop and prevent, Mr. Shook, you parking in front of your house. Mr. Shook, it was a time where people went out in the district where you stay in or close to it, and one of the Airbnbs had a marching band going down the street. Y'all didn't like that. You got a city council person who's making movement to put pegs in the street against the wish of the communities. And she's going forward. For what reason? I can't figure it out. The artwork is no concern of what it's going to look like. But we can't get past being able to parking in front of your street, in front of your house. That's a problem. We have to work together, Mr. Warren, Mr. Alex. We have to work together. There's a lot of benefits of being a city council, but you got to represent the community. You got to know the voices of what's going on in this community. You can't ignore the community. When people stand up and talk about something, it has to matter. But if I can be ignored, I can see how Anthony Lewis can be ignored. But it's hard for me to figure out, since he had won the election. He won the election, Mr. Shook. He's the only council person, I might have missed it, he's the only council person who said anything about a hospital that they publicized that might be closed.
Hang on 1 second, Mr. Shakir. So I want to make sure you have the time that's been donated to you. Who's donated time to you? Your name is, I'm sorry, say it again, please.
Eric Terrell.
Okay. And then, was there another person? Okay, you're on that list. You didn't make my list. So let's go ahead. Let's give Mr. Shakir the extra time.
Mr. Lewis made a comment about a hospital that intersects with Atlanta, Cleveland Avenue, a block. But it's very close. And I believe it directly borders the city of Atlanta. I haven't heard no more conversation about that. But we are working to roll out a display on the street, an art display. We're rolling to make little pegs for people to be able to do what? To be able to walk and put a bike lane in front of their house and with pegs falling that will block them from parking? Something's wrong with that morally. But we're talking about having representation. Will become a priority of Mr. Alex Warren. It become a priority for it to come through your committee to have the work done. I want you to look into that work. Then I want you to ride by there. Knock out 5 houses. Knock out. Just pick them out and see which ones. Because I got them all wrote down, the ones who didn't answer the door. But 95% answered the door. They said they didn't want it. Atlanta spent a lot of time talking about one Atlanta. We have an opportunity to be one Atlanta. But you know what one Atlanta was, Mr. Shook? One Atlanta was when discrimination and segregation was the law of the land. But it really wasn't one of Atlanta. It was systemic, outright brutal racism, that housing separated us. The streets that we paid taxes on, water bills on, segregated us from movement. We got over that. But the smell and the scent and the hand and the work on it is still working. When we can talk about, when a man can't talk about pegs being put up on the street and can't talk about hospitals that could be maybe some kind of coalition they made to save that hospital, we have some serious conversations to be had. Miss Bates right there is a friend of mine. I met her, and she have conquered and fought to be able to walk out of her house and be able to go to a transportation usage. But she's being threatened like many other citizens in this city is being threatened because of gentrification. That's a moral issue today. How can we, I'm not talking about African Americans who feel it every day, who their high schools and all that is impacted, the presence, the taxes, the fact in the history that public housing was torn down. You show me a structure that private industry created for a community that was better than public housing. That 5 and 6 and 10 families, sizes with 3, 4, 5, 6 children, was able to have residence in a secure place. Show me the history where the public housing was something better that formulated communities and relationships in streets and political power. They didn't all come from public housing. All the political advances didn't come to it, but it was an energy. That energy mattered. Ms. Baraki, I messed your name up, I'm sorry. But I just saw you take a sigh and lean back in your seat. And I saw you look at the clock. But these are voices of people who gave me their time. And I know you are a person who cares about our community, in your community. But in your community, gentrification and displacement is closing down communities, streets, middle schools, elementary schools, that the new people are not going to occupy. We got to figure out there's space in this city for everybody. We don't have to run children and families and men and women out of this city. We don't have to do that. There's businesses in this city that use these streets of Atlanta, Mr. Shook. And you know what some of those businesses are? They taxi businesses. There's new businesses like Uber and what have you. But we're seeing discrimination again on our public property. We're seeing taxi cabs not able to park there. Taxi cabs been a part of this city, Mr. Shook. Checker cab was one of them. But they go back 60 years ever since the beginning of automobiles. This population is being discriminated against. And I want you to pay attention to that. These utility workers, they've been a part of that development too. And I think they ought to be heard and taken care of. And if you get a chance to go by Boulevard Granada, look at those 32 houses, 36, 35 houses that's on that street. And realize this one Atlanta, or Atlanta, that we like to talk about, realizes with utilities of this company, of this city, who on Peyton Road said black folks had to be out of here by 7 p.m. They had two. I got the headlines on Atlanta Journal-Constitution headlines where they was talking about these streets, 2 streets in Southwest Atlanta where black folks can work in there, but they had to be out of there. Let's not create Atlanta where we look around and say, dang, all the black people are out of here? Mr. Shook, the black power is power that milk the babies and harvest the fields. We have come beyond a great deal of hatred. Let's work together. Mr. Shook, we count on your easiness and your humor, but we count also on your humanity. You're an elected official. Thank you.
All right.
right, thank you. That concludes public comment. I do have some responses and some questions. Some of this we will need to follow up with. The Atlanta City Code section, I'm sorry, a lot of the people who need to hear this have evidently been distracted. Section 2-104, para A of the City Code says that no speaker to whom time has been yielded shall speak for more than 10 minutes. I trust that answers that question. I would like for staff to do a 20-year look back on the compensation history for watershed employees. We need a clear and precise understanding of what that history looks like. I'm going to give the commissioner an opportunity to come up here and make any responses she might have, and evidently yeah, that. You want the code citation again?
Section 2
Yeah, just
dash
we're gonna get-
104.
Here's a copy for you right here. Okay, 20-year. We need a 20-year compensation look back. Would love to hear, get the commissioner's comments. In terms of the budget, that was 7 weeks ago, and there's the commissioner. I'll call you up in a second. So the budget was 7 weeks ago. The budget's been ratified. As you know, the administration's position when the subject came up then, as it was when other employees were making similar comments, was, well, no, we have to wait until we get the pay and class study. Unfortunately, that is not expected until later this fall. Mr. Warren, am I remembering that correctly? The pay and class study? It's going to be dated the minute we get it. I'm not a big fan of them, but it will shed some light on the situation. More importantly, I can tell you, I'm not a member of the administration, but their position has been pretty clear as regards that. Commissioner, if you have any comments or responses, we'd love to hear from you. And then I'll recognize Mr. Wan.
Absolutely. Thank you, Chairman Shook. Speaking on behalf of Department of Watershed Manager Makita Browning, I am scheduled to meet with workforce members who are here today on Friday morning to address their issues and concerns regarding compensation and any other issues that they have. We have gotten quite a bit of feedback from employees about compensation. For frontline workers, they were brought up to an hourly rate of $19.12, and that was up to a grade 19, and they'll have that for a full year. And then everybody else within Watershed, we gave them an additional 1%, and that's on top of the 2% that employees will get in January. And that was with the expectation that we would wait for the results of the pay and wage study, but we will look to see what additional adjustments may be warranted for those hardworking employees that have expressed some concerns and frustrations. And so I'll be working with the Department of Finance to figure out pretty quickly what additional adjustments can be made while we wait on the results of the study.
All right, thank you. Mr. Wan, followed by Ms. Boone.
Thank you. On top of the wage analysis that you're asking for, I would also add it'd be good to see the wage history of those employees that have been with Watershed for 20 years or more. I want to see specifically, rather than just aggregate averages, really drill down to some of the implications that were made by the speaker earlier to see whether they're true or not. I also just want to fire this off at Finance. Just know that when the next COVID-19 financial report comes before FEC, would like them to address the COVID funding for Watershed and the kind of the trickle down or trickle in to compensation piece. So we have an opportunity to look at that during that. There was another implication made that I was a little uncomfortable with in terms of DWM staff members contracting COVID while on the job. Is that correct? Is that something that y'all have had any sort of allegations of? And if so, have y'all looked into that?
So we've been doing tracking. We've been tracking pretty closely over the past 2 years since the pandemic started. We have employees that have contracted COVID. We're uncertain if they contracted it on the job or outside of the job, but certainly we've had a pretty aggressive cleaning regimen, which I've spoken about previously in my quarterly updates about all the things and measures that we're putting in place to ensure a clean and safe working environment for our employees. We do have a list of employees that have succumbed to COVID, but we've not been able to pinpoint if that was directly attributed to job, them contracting at work.
And have any of those pursued anything with the city in terms of that attribution back to the contracting it while they were on the job?
No,
right.
Not to my knowledge, no.
And then kind of going further with the notion of both COVID as well as monkeypox virus being transmitted by water, are there any cases of that you're aware of, or is that, because I know that COVID is considered an airborne disease, and then monkeypox is a skin-on-skin disease, or transmission, a high transmission rate, right?
So wastewater serves as an indicator for COVID.
Right.
Nothing,
an indicator. That's different from a transmission
absolutely
method.
Correct, and no, nothing substantive regarding monkeypox being transmitted through wastewater.
Very quickly, yes, it's skin to skin.
Right.
It can travel through some water droplets, and can stay on surfaces a bit, but no, not as we heard earlier by...
Through the sewer water,
Correct.
that's the treatment water. That's okay. I just wanted to make sure I understood what I was reading matched what you're in.
And with monkeypox, I think there's some implications of possible respiratory type, but to be concluded.
Okay, so to the extent that, and you've got protocols in place in terms of workplace safety, particularly around water and water that could have been contaminated.
Absolutely. We've not relaxed any of our COVID protocols, since we implemented them 2 years ago.
All right, thank you. Those are my questions. Just would like to see the data on those watershed employees that have been here for 20 years or more, just to affirm or dispel that comment. And then just again, finance during the next COVID-19 funds report. Let's be sure to address specifically the funds that Watershed received and how that moved through the department. So thank you, Commissioner.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, Ms. Boone, followed by Mr. Lewis.
Yes, Commissioner, there is, I did hear, and this is something that has been long-standing with the City of Atlanta, many of our employees do watch new employees coming in making the exact same amount or more of those. So that is something that I hope that you will have HR at the table, and we can deal with that as much as we can, because that has got to be very disheartening if you've been on employment, working every day, doing a good job, and someone comes off the street making the exact amount or more. So please do what you can to get HR and the mayor's office at the table on Friday.
Absolutely. That's a concern that's been raised, and I've heard loud and clear, and we'll work to see what we can do for equity based on seniority.
Mr. Lewis, and then Ms. Bakhtiari.
And apologies, Commissioner, if I'm restating any questions, but some new information came to me as I was outside, because when you got Watershed folks taking the time off work today, willing to miss hours to feed their family, and they're complaining about pay, nothing's more serious than this. I've been quoted as saying that the City of Atlanta won't work until we learn to treat the trash man like we treat police and fire. I I didn't know we need to add watershed to that as well. So my questions are surrounding around, because they're talking about money. I can't wait till they start talking about benefits, but right now they're talking about money. So COVID pay and premium pay, what's the difference between the two?
So Watershed has a hazard pay for workers that are mission critical, meaning their job duties and classifications deemed them to be working every day in an environment that puts them at risk. Employees get a 3.5% on top of their hourly wage. And they get that from the time they start work with Watershed until at such time they don't work with Watershed. I have gotten some feedback that maybe everybody is not, who should be getting that, may not be getting that, and so I'll be working with HR to make sure we synthesize and make sure that everybody who is frontline get that 3.5% upcharge on their salaries. In addition to that, there was a COVID pay that was a part of the American Rescue Plan where for a year, frontline workers got $500, an additional $500. Watershed workers who were deemed mission critical benefited from that. At the start of the pandemic, I think there was a little bit of hiccups and everybody wasn't getting it. And so we'll do an audit and look into if there's any employees that did not get it consistently, if there was any kind of gaps in pay. So I'll work with HR to address that. Then from that standpoint, I think there was another tranche of COVID pay, which was only for specific employees throughout the city. And I'm not sure that Watershed workers were a part of that last tranche.
I think that's the one I'm talking about. So hazard pay is something that they get because they're working a hazardous job, right?
Yes.
But then our workers, the folks who we call essential workers, I was in the room that came up with that word with ASME, to understand that they now hear about 412 going to all city employees. Who was it that removed? Because I was told that Watershed was embedding 412 or embedding some money into the pay.
So who
removed Watershed? Because I know police got it, I know fire got it. My sanitation man knocked on my trash man actually knocked on my door and thanked me for it. Parks and Rec got it. Transportation got it. So who made the decision that Watershed would not get that extra 412? Because who made that decision?
So the 412 is not removed.
Okay.
We had several discussions with HR about what was contemplated for that. One of the nuances with Watershed is everybody doesn't make the same pay. So I think the initial conversation were about employees. The city's minimum wage or hourly rate is $15. We have employees that make a spectrum of wages from 15 upward. And so we looked at employees that were on a grade 19 or below, and we made the necessary incremental adjustments up to that 1912. And that was only for the employees that were below grade 19. Then all those that are above grade 19, we gave them an additional 1%. And again, that would be on top of the 2% that everybody's going to get in January. And again, that's contemplated on us seeing the results of the pay and wage study, so we can look across our employee pool, all the positions, and really understand what the necessary pay adjustments are needed across our workforce.
And my question still is around the 412, because I understand you said you raised salaries.
So
but
what
they see is an extra 412. The one thing I get pulled around, the one thing people love our mayor about, they love our mayor do this. Everywhere he goes, he get grabbed about it. I get grabbed about it. I'm sure other council members do. That 412, it's an extra slide on their check that says premium pay. They love to see it. If they don't see it, they call us and say they don't see it. I think the Watershed employees are looking for that extra slot that says 412.
So what would have happened if we added the 412 onto all of the hourly wages?
Like everybody else in the city.
Well, it would have caused pay compression. We would have had, those that are at 19, now at 23. Well, then they're making more than those folks that already make 23. So we tried to figure out an equitable way to compensate everybody in some way. Again, it's not perfect.
That's not equitable to me, because we gave that, we didn't give. They earned for working in the pandemic and continue to work through this new pandemic that we don't even know what's going on. So the 412 to them is any part of their salary. We're doing a Mercer study to manage to look at their salaries. The 412 that's that, I call it monopoly money. That come out that monopoly money that we got. That's that government ARPA money. That's that monopoly money. So they want to see the premium pay. And I know you waged it out because we were worried about some folks who are not eligible for the 412. But that's not the issue of the workers who are out, essential workers who are negotiated, not a negotiated contract because the union doesn't have a negotiated contract yet in the city of Atlanta. But because of the MOU, or whatever of the 412, they want to see that premium pay. How do we get that extra premium pay and don't worry about the thank you for the increases in wages that you've done, thank you, but how do they get that premium pay like everybody else? Because police and fire got a raise and premium pay. Everybody else got a raise and premium pay. And they taking time off their hourly day. I know they missing these hours right now. I know there's wives at home, families at home worried about why dad at City Hall. They didn't come down here. They put on their work clothes today and played like they was going to work. They came down here to put in some work on us. And that's my question. How can we get them to the 412? And is it you who makes that decision, or is it Muhammad Bala who makes that decision?
It would be me that makes that decision in consultation with finance, and so
She makes that decision.
we will have that conversation. We'll put it forth and figure out what's going to be equitable.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You have my word.
Thank you.
First, to the watershed employees in the room, thank you for everything that you do. This is not a new conversation. You and I have attempted to have the conversation about premium pay and other increases in pay well before we ever got to the budget. I've sat down with finance, I've sat down with HR, I've sat down with you. So while I'm glad this is being discussed now, I want it to be known, myself and others have been trying to get these increases well before we got to this point. And I think one of the things that I am frustrated about is we're talking about this like it's new. Like, it's well overdue. Pay and everything that the watershed employees go through, well overdue. Well overdue. But we should have also, I want to say that, one, the commissioner's taking the brunt for a lot of this, but it's also on us. It's also on HR. It's also on the mayor's office. This is not just the commissioner that makes these decisions. We also have to talk to the COO. We have to talk to operator. We have to talk to everyone else. So yes, you are up here taking the brunt of this, and I thank you for that, because I know how much you care and I know how hard you work. But it's not on you. And I'm sorry that you are the one that's having to be up here and take the face for all of this when there's many more of us that should have fought harder for this when the budget came up. And I hope that when the mics are off and the cameras are off, that we continue to do this work, because we can sit up here and talk to y'all, but the real work happens when we're not up here. So once again, thank you. Thank you to you all. We're going to keep fighting. I've been having this conversation. I want you to know I've been having this conversation for months, trying to have this conversation with HR, trying to have this conversation with all these different departments. But we need to better service you, and we need to be held accountable, because we should have fought harder for this when the budget happened and done more. Because again, it's great that we're talking about it now, but it's also not on the commissioner to pull HR and there's other people in the room. It's also on us to help you do that, because you're doing enough trying to eliminate all the infrastructural issues and all the other issues that we have around the city. And frankly, your job in many ways is much harder than ours. So it should be on us to not say, you need to hold these meetings. We need to be there at the table with you, helping you to hold those meetings. So I want to thank you for that. I want to thank you all, and I want to apologize that we did not fight harder when there was time to do that. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you. Sorry.
Mr. Lewis.
And Councilmember, I will say we put in a paper that we pulled because they told me they embedded that money in your salary. I didn't know that they leveled it that way. I will also say that, did you just say you make the decision on the, I want to confirm, you make the decision on premium pay?
Not alone. I mean, it's a collaborative. Obviously, I've got to get administration's approval. HR has to have input as well.
But the final decision will be made by you.
Ultimately, it's me as the head of department, but again, with other input, for sure.
Because I know on that. Yep. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
here's what I know. You've clearly been heard by this committee. So your comments have been taken very seriously. We've asked for a lot of the follow-up information we're going to need to do our part as this conversation unfolds. One thing that's been accomplished is a meeting between a lot of the principals face-to-face that'll take place at week's end.
9 a.m.
9 a.m. Friday, I'm told. So that's very positive. So to those of you who have come down here, none of us thought we were going to get this resolved in the next couple hours this morning. But I think the conversation is definitely has been launched, and we know it's not going away. So we're going to have to try to everyone kind of do their job and try to figure it out. So thank you, and to be continued. 9 a.m.
72 Marietta.
All right, we're going to move on now, and Mr. Brown.
Yes, my name was on a public comment list to speak.
Yep, go ahead, Mr. Brown. Thank you.
Thank you. So my name is Chris Brown, and I've been affiliated with the city for the last 17 years. I've worked with both PACE and ASME as a union representative, as a member, and as a steward. And many of these employees that came down, I got a call this morning to come down and help and support these employees. We're having conversations about pay parity. Ultimately, what it revolves around. And these conversations about safety-sensitive positions have been conversations for the last 17 years. And we've seen Watershed and Public Works kind of go through a debate with HR and administration. We have to come to a point where we resolve these issues. The compression issues come through means like this, where you have inequities that have been embedded within the pay structure, and employees are taking time to now act on those things. And the community is concerned because it also affects the way that we receive services. It affects the way that we do business. And these are also our community members. A lot of these people stay in the community and want to continue to work in this city. I do believe in the One Atlanta model, where we've had a tale of two cities, but the employees are the grunt of the work that we do in serving. We're not here to make a profit. We're here to provide service. And providing that service also allows for opportunity for workforce development. We've seen great programs within watershed management to move people up and be able to obtain certifications and increase their skill sets while working for the city of Atlanta. I would like for this committee to just kind of look at what we're doing in totality, not only with the watershed workers, but also with the solid waste workers who also work, who is receiving this premium pay, but also is not receiving hazard pay. This premium pay that they're receiving is a temporary relief provided by the federal government. So when the money is exhausted, that is gone, and we're back to where we were, and we're not preparing for that. And I think that there's an opportunity, what does it cost the city to fund this act is one thing, but what is the opportunity cost that we gain or lose by not addressing the issues that we have before us? So I want to make sure that I come before you as not only a community member, but as a person that represents people and the voices of people. And these people have taken time off their job to come down here to put themselves before you guys. And it's something serious. Like if we had to address this during budget, maybe it would have been a conversation. There's still opportunity for this conversation to happen. I think that we should not only look at watershed, but look at public works and other safety-sensitive positions in the city of Atlanta. We spent a lot of money around safety-sensitive positions when it came down to drug testing. And so we know the criteria in those who are covered by Fair Labor Standards Act, and those who are 18 and below, and those who receive a comparable wage and compression that has happened over time, that we can address these issues by looking at feasible means to do so. So I'm glad that you guys are taking this up and supporting the workers, and I look forward to the conversations that will be held later on this week. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Brown. All right, that takes us to F, Communications. 22C 5134 is a communication from Pierre Gaither, Executive Director of the Atlanta Board of Education, submitting the reappointment of himself to serve as a member of the Keep Atlanta Beautiful Commission. His appointment is for a term of 2 years to begin retroactively on March 5 of this year and expire March 4 of 2024. It's my understanding that he is not here today, and so I'll make a motion to hold that. Second by Mr. Wan. Let's open that vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
All right, that's unanimous. Item has been held. We have a nomination that we're going to bring forward from the held section. That is item 422C 5115, the communication by council members Hillis, Boone, Waits, reappointing Mr. Michael Hopkins to serve as a member of the Water and Sewer Appeals Board. This appointment is for a term of 3 years to begin retroactively September 5th of 2020 and expire September 4 of 2023. Thank you for your patience.
No problem. Good morning.
So introduce yourself and tell us about your prior service.
Once again, good morning, Chair and fellow council members. My name is Michael Hopkins. I'm a native of Georgia. I've resided in the Hammond Park area for over 25 years. I'm an active community activist, which has led me to become the Neighborhood Planning Unit Chair, as well as my Neighborhood Association Chair. I've also held many other positions. I served on over several commissions for the City of Atlanta. I'm one of Georgia's for the Secretary of State, appointed me one of Georgia's most outstanding citizens. And I'm just here to ask you all that I could serve once more on the Water and Sewage Appeals Board, which I'm a great part of that board. I co-chair that board along with the chair of the Water and Sewage Appeals Board.
Well, it's a critical function. We appreciate your willingness to serve. Ms. Boone, do you have a motion? Second by Warren. Motion by Boone. Let's open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Do we have any other business to come before us today?
No, Mr. Chair.
Any announcements?
Yes, I wanted to just get an update on the float initiative. Many of our citizens still don't know that it exists. We had folks that go to Adams Park today and only 2 people were there. So we would like for Watershed to do text messages. Can we hear from someone regarding that? Because this is critical. I think the last day is the 18th or 19th. Folks have been getting good results from our Float Initiative program, and we need to advertise that more. We need text messages. Those that don't have cell phones, we need the robocalls to go out because it is a very successful program, and my neighbors in the Adamsville community got great results this week, and they're there right now at the Adams Park Library.
I'm Jonathan Williams. I'm Deputy Commissioner of Financial Administration for Watershed. It's actually going really well, to your point. The number of people who are showing up per day is escalating. We had our highest day yesterday. We had 50 people show up yesterday. And so we're also dealing with some COVID issues ourselves, but making sure that it's staffed correctly. And we will be seeking all means of communication that we can get approved. Yes, ma'am.
Do you have, what all have you all been doing? Because we definitely need the robocalls and the text messages to those targeted areas where we have folks with, I have an 83-year-old with a $9,000 water bill. She was able to bring her daughter in and they negotiated it down some and they can make payments. What means of communications are we using? We want to make sure that after the Float Initiative ends, we don't have thousands of people saying, oh, I didn't know about it, because it's a great, great program, and we appreciate this.
We've sent flyers out in the bills, but to the RoboCop, we're working on that because we're not trying to, a certain contingency is frightened by that and feels like if you say the wrong thing, it causes stress. So we're trying to figure out a way to roll it out in a way that merely informs people that we've got that advocacy available to them. So we're moving through that. And we have seen a corresponding drop in our AR, particularly in the single family.
When does the program end?
In October. It was 12 weeks starting the end of July. So I think I'll have to provide you with the exact date.
And if you would ask, if we could get, each one of us can get a flyer emailed to us.
Absolutely.
So that we can send out the dates, the times, and a number where folks can call and get information. It is a great program. Thank you.
And even beyond that, we'll be sending you guys your top, the top folks in your district, and I'm available to talk to you about them and the resolution that we're seeking on all of them to make that work, and to give you guys advance notice of calls that could come your way because we're reaching out to them. We're just trying to be ethical and reasonable with folks.
Well, I appreciate that, and she beat me to it, or you beat me to it. I was going to ask for a list of District 7. Let me ask you this, while this program is in place, are people still able to file, formal disputes?
Absolutely. That
Go through the
doesn't
appeals?
change. And we've got 31,000 single-family accounts that people still have the right and the capability to file a dispute if they feel like it's done incorrectly. And it goes through the same process. It's removed from our open balances while the dispute is being addressed. And so, yes, absolutely, to answer your question.
Any other questions? All right, if there's nothing else, we're adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Manage